serious.
I wanted to avoid it at the cost of running away. You thought of me.
What are you doing here? David! You want your email to stop me from entering your house?
I want to let you know that I was on the company.
When the thunder strikes, the earth shakes. When the burning spear strikes, there comes confusion, detestation, deception, disbelief, love, and dismay. Trust in man is deadly. Your close friend, your worst enemy. The Burning Spear. Burning Spear, a story of multi-identity, suspense-filled, educative, and entertaining. The Burning Spear.
Nowhere. It's just a bunch of prejudices about the different communities, but nothing substantial about the cause of the conflict. It is becoming expensive to have you there.
If it was you that lost your brother, would you do it?
Family ties, a thorn in the flesh.
To be seeing my daughter every day.
Africa Independent Television.
AIT, sharing the African experience.
Good morning, thanks for staying with us on Africa Independent Television, AIT. Welcome to Focus Nigeria this sad Monday morning. The relative peace that has pervaded the Nigerian aviation sector was rudely shattered yesterday afternoon when a Dana Air passenger plane crashed in the densely populated Agbado area of Lagos, just 5 nautical miles to its destination. That's the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Ikeja. The bulk of the plane was completely entombed, giving no chance of survival at all to the 154 passengers on board. The casualty on ground is equally not yet ascertained since the plane crashed into a building, but it could be high. As typical of our emergency response to such situations, the rescue efforts were chaotic, a pattern that could produce no results at all. For example, the first firefighter truck that arrived at the scene, according to eyewitnesses, had no water. The ever-curious Lagos residents almost turned the accident site to a tourist attraction, as we saw just a while ago. I said the Russians almost turned the accident scene to a tourist attraction. You just wonder what manner of rescue effort was that, with people posing right on the wreckage of the aircraft, snapping pictures and all of that. It says a lot about how we are and who we are. Anyway, the Minister of Aviation soon visited the site, after which she also addressed an emergency news conference. Let's listen to the Minister of Aviation, Princess Stella Odua.
At 3:43 p.m. local time, Dyna Flight 0992 from Abuja to Lagos declared emergency. A call for Mayday in Lagos Control Tower at about 11 nautical miles. The flight was found to have crashed into residential building at Idu area of Lagos with 153 passengers on board and 6 crew. The police, National Emergency Management Agency, rescue teams from Lagos, Ogun State, and local residents, everybody conveyed at the crash site to see what they could do to help. The federal government of Nigeria will institute a very, very thorough investigation to find out exactly what happened and to ensure we don't have the occurrence of this ever again. Again, we don't know exactly what happened. We knew that they were just 11 nautical miles coming into MMA when they called for Mayday. That's all we know for now. The investigation is ongoing. The rescue is ongoing. We do not know the exact number of casualties. We just keep on praying, and the rescue goes on. Thank you very much. We will be talking to families, we'll be talking to loved ones. That's really all we know for now.
Minister of Aviation, Stella Odua, almost in tears. Not almost, completely in tears as she gave the initial report. 153 passengers, 6 crew members, that's 159 number of casualties on ground, not yet known. Cause of accident, yet to be determined. But from here we can say authoritatively, for those of us who also are frequent flyers, Dana is an airline of choice. Dana here has had a relatively good safety record. This is about the first major incident involving this airline. President Goodluck Jonathan has already declared a 3-day mourning period. And in Accra, Ghana, earlier on Friday night, a Nigerian registered cargo plane belonging to Allied Air had also overshot the runway after landing at the Kotoka International Airport in Accra, Ghana on Saturday night. 10 people were reportedly killed in the accident because the plane, after overshooting the runway, rammed into an airport passenger bus, broke through the perimeter fencing of the airport, and was almost hitting the Ghanaian Defense Ministry when it came to an abrupt stop. Let's listen to a Ghanaian official as he also spoke about this incident which also happened this weekend.
It's a Boeing 737-200 with registration number 5BJN. The aircraft on landing overshot the runway and went through the airport's perimeter fence. It then ran through a minivan on the Gifford Road, that is the Demakam Road. The cargo has no dangerous injuries, and the accident scene has been secured and cordoned off. As stated earlier, there are emergency teams on the ground, including the Ghana National Fire Service, Ghana NADMO, Ghana Police, National Security, Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, and the Ghana Air Force Company Limited. and they are still on the accident scene. Updates will be made available as and when information is
I think that this has been a test of our emergency readiness, and I think that you performed commendably. But make sure the accident site is cordoned off. Let the accident investigation team come and find out what exactly happened. Kotoka is a safe airport. We haven't had this kind of accident in many decades. And so I don't think it's anything to cause panic. I hear that aircrafts are coming and going, as this thing. I want to, on behalf of the President, express the government's condolences to the bereaved, those who have lost their lives and their families.
That was the scene of another aircraft mishap in Ghana, involving a Nigerian registered plane, a cargo plane this time around. The casualty were those that were killed when the plane rammed into a passenger bus when it overshot the runway. It's a sad weekend, and as the names of the passengers in the Dana aircraft crash in Nigeria become public, the impact of the development continue to sink deeper and deeper. People relations, friends, and all of that. And then you also wonder, it could have been you. Well, from here we pray that God will comfort everyone that has lost anybody or someone in this incident. And we also hope that the authorities will establish the cause of the accident, at least with a view to preventing a reoccurrence. The Nigerian airspace has been relatively safe since the last incident involving, I think, ADC or so, way back in 2006. All right. Because of this incident, we'll be sharing a review of the polity this morning. I'll just set the template for our discussions immediately. As you know, efforts to amend the 1999 Constitution are in top gear again. The stakeholders are key into the issues, creating awareness for the issues that the lawmakers should focus on. Late last week, that's up onto Saturday, one of such gatherings called the Voices for Nigerian Development, headed here in Abuja, the nation's capital. With focus on revenue, federalism, and development of Nigeria, the opinions and views expressed were profound and fundamental. With participants from all over Nigeria, the conference indeed has proved timely and a veritable platform. The communique issued at the end of the three-day gathering spoke about the enormous wealth of the nation, which have remained untapped as a result of many problems, particularly the suffocating federal structure we run as a nation. The participants called for a devolution of more powers to states and local governments, while the enabling environment should be created for states to explore and exploit the natural resources in their domain. In recent times, the clamor for fiscal federalism has been getting more intense. The belief is that the regional structural practice in the First Republic, which allowed the regions greater control over resources found in their domain, allowed the regions to develop more. But today, the states have become weakened as almost all resources are concentrated in the center. The resultant effect of pulling all resources to the center and then little of it is doled out to the states has made the states in turn to become complacent as everyone looks to the monthly ritual of sharing from the collective bowl. Another school of thought had also noted that the creation of states had only multiplied the bureaucracy and bloated the size of government. One federal government, 36 state governments, 774 local councils with legions of ministries, departments, and agencies. The fact of this is that from the federal to the states and to the councils, the bulk of public revenue is spent to maintain bureaucracies with very little left to be spent on creating or sustaining infrastructure that will benefit the greater number of people. So, we'll be examining the issue of fiscal federalism versus central federalism this morning. It's a comparative analysis of some sort, the past and the present. That's what we'll be doing this morning as our focus on constitutional amendment continues. The discussion will start shortly after this break.
Explore Africa.
Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy Africa's compelling,
Exciting
and breathtaking
experience
with Kakaki,
the African voice.
Budgeting. Questions such as, do we need an NNPC in the first place, must be asked. My view, we don't.
He is the field officer. He has the responsibility to ensure all operations regarding arrest.
If you're just joining us, our discussions are starting now. Let me quickly introduce the guests. Ibrahim Abdullahi is joining us for discussions this morning. Ibrahim is a political scientist. He was also in the race in the last elections. He was the senatorial candidate of the Action Congress of Nigeria for Kebbi South Senatorial District. That's on the platform of the Action Congress of Nigeria. Ibrahim, good to see you. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Benga.
Bashir Barrow is also joining us for discussions this morning. Bashir is an activist, former president, National Association of Nigerian Students, that's NANS. He's also the Speaker, Arewa Youth Parliament. Good to see you, Bashir.
Glad to be here.
And of course, the one you know too well, Dr. Otive Iguzo is also joining us for discussions this morning. Dr. Otive Iguzo is the Executive Director, African Center for Leadership, Strategy and Development, Center LSD. I also assume that you are the convener of Voices for Nigerian Development.
Absolutely, you're right.
Okay, we'll talk about that shortly, but it's a very sad period in Nigeria. 3-day mourning already declared by the president. But generally, it's been a very terrible weekend. The Nigeria played that well. They said it's not crash-landed. Had a mishap in Ghana. 10 people killed in that one. Then there was the carnage on Lagos-Ibadan Express. You know, that will be the second time within a week. Here is a road that has been concessioned. It's supposed to be dualized, at least to reduce the level of carnage. That is not being done. Yet the federal government, years after this concession, is not doing anything. Either to revoke the agreement, give it to somebody who's more serious. I mean, people are just dying on that road. And then, of course, see yesterday's incident. I know you are also a pastor. A quick word of exhortation here.
It's tragic. Life in Nigeria is becoming what Thomas Hobbes called nasty, brutish, and short. But I think that Nigerians need to rise in unison to confront the challenges, because all of these are long years of bad leadership, corruption, and more importantly, absence of strategy. Because what is happening in the country is that things are done haphazardly, no clear-cut strategy. If you want to have concession, if you want to have public-private partnership, you must have a strategy to drive it, and that strategy must take into cognizance the challenges that you are to face. And when you face these challenges, as you go along, you have strategy for monitoring and then be able to take decision. That is why you see that, like you mentioned, those roads are there, concessions, but nothing is happening and nothing is being done. It's lack of vision, it's lack of strategy, and lack of leadership. But Nigerians should not despair. This should be a wake-up call to everyone to be more focused, to address more the questions of leadership, the questions of strategy, and the questions of corruption. Because apart from incompetence and poor strategic approach, one of the greatest challenges facing us is corruption. And if we address all of this, I mean, and the situation has remained because people generally feel lackadaisical. They don't address the issues, they don't deal with them, and because of people's lackadaisical attitude, impunity reigns supreme in the land.
Bashir, your quick comment on this air crash. We've had a relatively safe skies since 2006, I think. That was the last incident at the Abuja airport.
Yeah. Well, what happened yesterday is tragic. Apart from the plane crash, there was issue of church bombing in Bauchi, and the Lagos Express issue. And I think the major problem of this country has to do with corruption, because virtually corruption is every sector of our economy, aviation, health, and all that. And that's why there is even some notions that the plane ought not to apply because it has some mechanical fault. But this is Nigeria, where people are allowed to go scot-free on whatever they committed. And at the end of the day, it will not surprise me if no one is brought to book on this very tragic incident. But one thing that it shows that Nigerians are one and the same, because the people that die in that plane, there are Christians, there are Muslims, there are people from the north, there are people from the south. And this is a time of not apportioning blames, but it is time we come together and try to make sure that things that are not working normal in this country will begin to have a reproach.
Okay.
Yes.
Ibrahim, this also came at a time when we are trying to do some kind of rebranding in the aviation sector, rehabilitating our airports, at least to make them something much more presentable for passengers and even to the outside world.
Well, we have a commendable aviation sector in the last 3-4 years, so to speak, until this last one of yesterday. So we had a relatively peaceful sky until what we saw yesterday. Let me quickly use this opportunity to commiserate, like you earlier did, with Nigerians and particularly those who lost their loved ones in this very tragic and monumental disaster. It only tells you, like Dr. said earlier, that we have a serious situation in this country. And Bashir corroborated it by saying it called across the spectrum of the society, social, economic, and political. There are crises virtually everywhere. So it's only sad, and we only pray that this will be the last we will hear, by God's grace.
Okay, let's get back to why we are here. We are on the march again. We successfully broke the jinx of amending the Constitution, we're altering the Constitution, to use the exact word of the Constitution. We successfully broke that jinx where the Constitution was amended in 2010.
To deal with issues of election.
To deal with the issues of the impending election. Probably would not have augured well if we had not done what we did before the 2011 elections. We are coming back to the same issue now. I think for Nigerians, the real act of amending the Constitution may just have begun. How problematic or how easy do you think the issues that will be crystallized now, how easy do you think they will be for us to surmount? Will they be as easy as we found them in 2010?
Usually amending the Constitution, especially written constitutions, are not easy. And amending Nigerian Constitution, because of the provisions and what needs to be done to amend the Constitution, is not easy. You get to tell from the National Assembly, you get to tell from the state houses of assembly. So what is clear to us is that, and we follow the process of amending the Constitution from 1999, what is clear to us is that to amend the Constitution, there must be a consensus. Once there is an issue that there is no consensus, it is usually difficult to get an amendment through. And I think that is why we must actually, I'm one of the people who actually thought that this piecemeal approach is not really the best, because there was unanimity in the country that the content and process of making the 1999 Constitution was not good. In fact, indeed, it was one of the issues that there was unanimity between politicians and non-politicians, radicals and conservatives, that the 1999 Constitution was imposed on Nigerians. If you recall, Benga, you will notice that the people contested for the 1999 elections without seeing a copy of the Constitution.
People took oath without
seeing the copy of the Constitution. And one would have thought that immediately after, one of the major things that politicians will do will be to look at the Constitution and see whether what was crafted by the military was good for a civilian government. But like I said, one of the major challenges, and we really need in the next few years, and some of us want to really lead that process, in the next few years, we need to return to strategy. As a nation, institutions, governments, organizations, and even individuals must locate strategy in its important place. Because what we would have expected if we have strategic leaders was to say, okay, this constitution, let's look at it. It was written for us by the military. We contested without even seeing the content. Let's see it. What are the places we need to quickly do that will be better for us as a civilian government? But they didn't do that. But I think now is the time to begin to look at that. And one area they must look at is how to make the constitution conducive to development of Nigeria. Because there are always two issues when we talk about democracy. Democracy and development. If democracy does not deliver development, then there's usually a problem. And if you are not careful, it will lead to reversal of the democratic process. Because it has been proven that when there is poverty, when there is conflict, when there is crisis, it more or less affects democratic processes. So I think the opportunity is now to really look at how do we amend the 1999 Constitution in a way that will be conducive to development.
Okay. Bashir, I'd like to find out whether we have gone too far with this constitution such that we cannot be talking of dumping it completely and bringing forth a new one. Again, if you also key it into what Dr. Otive just said, a piecemeal approach of this constitution will probably lead to a complete decimation of the constitution, because hardly do you pick the constitution and you open a particular page, a particular section, and you don't see something that is disagreeable, either in terms of the language that is a lot of people said is not gender friendly, or in terms of even syntax. Common syntax, you find a lot of things that what exactly
are they talking about?
What exactly does this mean? And again, we at least judging by what courts have been able to say, we've had instances where even the use of the word shall, as we know, to command mandatoriness, have been interpreted to mean, well, shall may not necessarily be shall. Shall could actually be may, and all of those things. So there's hardly any page of the constitution you see that you will find something that one person or another, or one group or one section or another will find objectionable. So how do we proceed? Have we gone too far with it such that we just have to continue patching it along and all of that?
Well, the present democracy we enjoy now in Nigeria dates back to 1999. And the constitution we are operating in Nigeria today, as far as I'm concerned, is a military constitution. That we are not having yet a democratic constitution in Nigeria, in which people will come together and agree on what should be in their own constitution. Because constitutions should be sovereign, should be also take into consideration all issues of federalism, issues of revenue allocations, issues of contesting for political offices and all sorts of that. And what we have been witnessing in the last era of President Olusegun Obasanjo, the National Assembly tried to make some constitutional amendment, but because of some things, some selfish issue or personal issues that were brought in, the Constitution was thrown away, the constitutional review was thrown away. But the fears I'm having, the present National Assembly, could they truly review or amend the Constitution in such a way that is going to be acceptable to everybody? Because the issue is this: most of them are having political positions, and they are skeptical in amending some part of the Constitution because it will not all go well.
Lest they amend away their own authority and their positions.
Yes. So they always try to amend the Constitution in such a way that it will not hurt them, but they don't care about the general populace of Nigeria. And again, if you look at it from another angle, the issue of constitutional amendment in Nigeria is long overdue, because everyone in this country, every zone and region, is a victim of the present constitution we are having. And that is why we continue to have crises here and there, because people did not really sit down to come up with this constitution. Military, in Nigerian constitution, we still have military degrees in our own constitution, and we are still operating on that. And I think if we are practicing truly democracy, we need to have a people-oriented constitution that everyone from different parts, apart from the National Assembly, the memorandum should not just be in Abuja, but we should even go down to state and region to discuss, engage the public that, okay, we are amending constitution. How do you pay? What do you pay? Because most of the representatives and the senators, truly they are not even representing their
but they will be quick to tell you that they will organize public hearings, they organize public hearings,
yes, but
all of that.
The public hearing, most of them start and end in Abuja, or they ended in a major geopolitical zone, and it is control, because they even choose who and who is going to be in that forum and who is going to speak. Anybody that will go against them, they will stop him. They would not even allow him access into the hall.
We saw that in the past.
Yes.
We saw that in the past in was it in Oshobo also?
Yes, exactly. So we really need a truly people constitution, not the way National Assembly are going about it. But let it be open. We should engage everyone from villages to town to cities and to Abuja, so that it will be a truly people constitution at the end of the day.
Okay. Ibrahim, I had a former member of the House of Reps here last week, Friday, Honorable Balai Binala.
Yes.
The analogy he painted is somebody who is trying to challenge the existence of his father, that the Constitution gave birth to almost all, not almost, all the political offices we have, they are all creation of the Constitution. And now, if any one of them, particularly the National Assembly, tries to set aside that Constitution, it's like sounding his own death knell. Now, I'm wondering whether it is possible, if we say that a piecemeal approach to amending this Constitution will completely decimate the Constitution, since almost all parts of it have one thing or the other that is bad, that we need to remove, a new Constitution, a people-oriented Constitution will probably be the way out. Is it possible for the National Assembly to set that process in motion? Not a process of amending or altering this existing Constitution, but a process that will probably be all-inclusive, be independent of the National Assembly. The moment that process ends, whatever the product is ignited, and then that, of course, automatically sounds the death of the existing structures we have, the coming into force of the new one that would have emerged through that process. Is it possible?
Well, it is not likely to be feasible in that context. But I think I agree with you.
Why?
Well, essentially because we have a National Assembly that is parochial, one that is chauvinistic in understanding really the degree of the problem that we are confronted with. Bashir made a clear observation of some situation I will want to quickly, analyze. If we had a constitution that was people-oriented in the first place, these problems we are talking about would long have been addressed. But the crafters of this very constitution in question could not completely be written off in the sense we are trying to say. There are some aspects of it we agree, like you have just submitted, that is good enough, but we have anomalies here and there. And the interpretation of this constitution, to me, is largely the problem, not really the constitution as a whole. But I also agree there are green areas in the constitution that require some touches here and there. But the question of whether we can have a separate attempt elsewhere to begin to see how we could come up with a new one, outside the very existing one, it's quite impossible. I don't see it happening. But I also agree it's long overdue for Nigerians to convene somewhere and discuss, but I don't subscribe to the view of sovereign or what they want to call it. But I think it's long overdue. The merits of problems ranging from the polity, the economy, the social sector, everything is in disarray in the country. So it is long overdue
for Nigerians to convene. Let them have, a table discussion where we'll agree the region should come and focus, their attention on national development. If we have a confederal state, for me, it's even better, because I want to remember, like we have read, what obtained in the First Republic, where regions were autonomous. They produced, commodities they had comparative advantage over, and they were not just helping the country by sustaining it in food and other things. They were exporting this product. All of a sudden, this thing went away with the coming of oil. Some people argue that the oil in Nigeria is a cause. I don't want to completely agree, but I think I have seen the disadvantages of this oil. It has
brought more problems.
It has brought more pains, to Nigerians, such that our leadership, particularly in the north here, has become docile. Sometimes I hear when I discuss with my colleagues up south, they will say, your governors are... I agree. To a large extent, we have a leadership that is suffering from the poverty of ideas, unfortunately. And limiting it to this constitution, which is the bane of our discussion, you would agree with me that the National Assembly does not have the muscles or the capacity. We have not seen a National Assembly that is vibrant, if not the 6th or 7th National Assembly, that somewhat demonstrated some degree of, understanding of issues. The ones we had under Obasanjo and before, throughout the 8 years of Obasanjo, because we had about 5 National Assembly, we had it severally. The legislators, when they are not fighting, stealing and robbing, the wealth of the nation, they were busy fighting, exchanging blows and trading words. When they were not conspiring against the economy, they were engaged in cutthroat competition to outloot one another. Profligacy, recklessness, over-invoicing, bribery and misapplication of funds have remained the order of the day, which threatened to imperil the democratic experiment in the first place. And in such situation, you cannot but see the kind of... In such situation, the economy became brazenly devastated, like a farm visited by, grasshoppers, caterpillars, and cankerworms. The resultant effect has been the endless suffering, economic misery, frightening poverty, and acute joblessness. It is only lamentable that...
Is there any sign that that can end? If you have a national a process, for example, part of what belongs in the last amendment was a process to make the legislation completely independent of the executive. But the states voted against it. The state houses of assembly said they didn't want economic freedom for themselves.
No, but you see,
and these are the people, even here we are talking of something that is beneficial to them, not even to the generality of the people, but to them, as lawmakers. And they said no, they don't want it. So how much more when it's about you and I?
Oh, I think the problem has so much to do with the interests of the executive at that time. Many of the state governments were tied to the aprons of the federal government, either because they wanted to come, because the governors are completely aligned to the central authority.
Has that changed?
It has not changed, unfortunately.
That's the problem. These are the people we are entrusting with the process. Yeah. Because we are getting to the crux of the issues now. The issues that are very divisive, very combustible, very political in nature.
Yeah. I think also largely the problem has to do with most of the members of the State House of Assembly are handpicked by the governors.
Has
most
that
of
changed?
them did not win election.
Has that changed?
No, it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed, but the processes that we saw in the last election, hopefully if there are more amendments on the Electoral Act, things will change.
Because Dr. we are talking about the real critical issues now.
It has not changed, but certain things have changed in the country. The level of consciousness of people changed. People are asking more questions. The means of communication have changed. When this crash happened yesterday, nobody waited till the normal time for news by the broadcast media to see what was happening. Communication through Facebook, through the social media have changed. And so things are changing. And I think we need to not despair and begin to look at other countries that have been able to witness such phenomenal changes. What did they do? And what should we do? I think the posing of the question should actually be, what should we do to change the situation? And like I said earlier, the beginning point is strategy. In every society, there are people who benefit from the system. You don't want them to change because they benefit.
Status quo must remain.
Yes, because you see, the people just began to look at the constitution, even though it was imposed by the military. but they are not the one enjoying the powers. And what we're advocating is bringing about strengthening institutions and lowering the power of individuals. What we are talking about is, producing a capable state and bringing systems and mechanisms that will bring down the possibility or the discretion. Every society, when you are struggling for change in any society, especially a very corrupt one like ours, what do? You focus on building institutions so that individuals don't have overriding power on issues. You focus on building systems and structures, mechanism for doing things, whether it's procurement, or allocation of oil blocks, or whatever it is, so that individuals don't have overriding influence on things. But the individuals occupying those positions will resist it. So that is why strategy comes in again. For those who want change in the system, what strategy would they put in place to ensure that this happens? And in most societies, the strategy will first of all have to start from raising awareness and building consciousness. And I can assure you that the level of consciousness of Nigerians today is very high. When you discuss with a taxi driver, with an ordinary man in the street, the kind of nuanced analysis that they give about their knowledge of what is going on in government and what is happening.
Even the economy.
Even the economy. You would think you are reading a treatise from a professor of political economy. So, but the next stage, and this is the important thing, is the stage of organizing for change. This is where Nigerians have missed it. And this is where people have not been able to put a lot of emphasis. That is why in this moment, for Nigeria today, the most important thing is probably strategy. Because if you have the strategy for organizing people, if you have the strategy for change, then people will buy into the change process. And when people buy into the change process, even the kind of leaders you will emerge, the leadership selection process will change. Because the problem is that we've done election in 2011. Most people are waiting now, doing nothing. No strategy, no mobilization, no building of structure, no building of organization, no building of people on how to engage the elections, the election process. And then you think anything will change? No. So my appeal to Nigerians, whether media houses, they need to have a strategy. If media houses focus only on who brings money, we put them in, then the system will remain. If NGOs focus on whoever gives me money, I will do whatever they say, then the system will remain. If politicians do not think out of the box, do not focus on organization, do not focus on mobilizing, do not focus on setting the standard, what kind of leader do we need in 2015?
That's right.
By the time the 2015 comes, the status quo will remain. So, yes, nothing has really changed, but things can change. And they can change
and the speed
from having the strategy for the change process to happen.
And the speed with which things change these days, who could have thought that after 30 years in power, that it would just take 18 days of people's revolution to bring down Hosni Mubarak. 18 days compared with 30 days in power. Maximum ruler.
Look at the trends across the world. The most permanent thing today across the world is change. There was even a situation in Greece, where somebody was appointed leader without election because of the exigencies of the time. Look at what is happening in France. What happened? Voting out people. Look at what happened in the United Kingdom. Voting out the Labour Party despite the popularity of the Labour Party. And if care is not taken, even if you do election today in the UK, with the rating of the Conservatives, it's not unlikely that they will be voted out. But Nigeria,
Those things are not happening because we are not organizing.
We agonize.
Yeah, we agonize. It's happening because we don't have a strategy that we are working with. That's why, there's this Institute of Strategic Management of Nigeria, which is looking at all of these issues. How do we have strategy for change? How do we have strategy for development? How can you run organizations? I tell you today, many of the big organizations in this country are running without strategy. They just come, what you want to do today? And you can't run a nation like that. You can't run an organization like that. So some of us in the next few years want to really promote this idea of strategy, so that in different areas, people, even strategy for personal development. People, many people are unsuccessful not because they don't have the capacity, but they are not able to plan their life, organize their life, and strategize to make the best out of what they have.
I agree completely with you. Yes, Bashir. Let me just take us back to the real issues we are here, because I may not have the pleasure of having you guys there. In fact, I thank you so very much for even making the sacrifice to be part of the program this morning. We're looking at fiscal federalism now, and central federalism. A lot of people will blame the problem we have right now on the structure of government that we run, and that this is a direct flow of our history, of our recent history, not our original history. Our recent history that started with the Civil War and then ended with the military rule before we were able to just enthrone democracy. That long years of starting from the Civil War and then long years of military rule is what has led us to where we are. And the kind of federal structure that we have now is a direct fallout of that. A federal structure that is completely different from other federal structures elsewhere. A federal structure that is like, it's like the military just took the command structure of the military, hammered it into law. The supremacy of one person called the head of state and commander-in-chief, superimposed in an elected president who is also commander-in-chief with enormous powers. Nothing has changed from the same powers that the head of state used to exercise. And then you have states that ought to be independent but look up to the center, the commander-in-chief, the head of state in Abuja. That is what we have now. And a lot of people will say that is the cause of the problem we have now.
Yeah. Well, this issue also of fiscal federalism, it also revolves around the issue of constitutional amendment, because the type of constitution we have now, it gives so much power to the center. And to me, and today, what the central government in Nigeria is Abuja, and they take the greater percentage of the budget. And the only thing state government and governors come to do in Abuja is to come and share the oil revenue. And things cannot continue to work in this way. Each and every state in this country has its own potentials. Like the state of Zamfara, where I come from, it has been estimated, recent survey, that higher quality mineral are found in Zamfara at estimated worth of over $40 billion. But these things are largely untapped. About 14,000 licenses have been issued to miners to come and explore that sector of economy. But nothing has been done, because most of them, they will come to Abuja here, and at the end of the day, they will obtain license here because the system is not controlled by the state government. And at the end of the day, they will go their way. And what we are even witnessing now in Zamfara is illegal mining, in which over 4,000 children have died because of lead poisoning.
That's the lead poisoning?
Yes. You understand? It's because of illegal mining. So, again, I have an opinion about the issue we are having of sustaining the present structures we are having in Nigeria. To me, it's not workable. We even need to go back to...
It's not even working.
Yeah. We need to go back to regional system of government, because the political offices, if you go to states as small as Zamfara, you are having over 20 commissioners, you are having many special advisors, hundreds of special assistants, and all the money that comes as allocation ended up in servicing those politicians. And at the end of the day, that's why today we have many number of jobless youth, And again, many states in recent statistics are insolvent in Nigeria. They cannot stand on their own without oil revenue. And that is why we need to sit down. Who is afraid of coming to sit and have discussion with every part of Nigeria? It's the political class. And what they use sentiment to divide us. You are from the north, you are a Christian, you are a Muslim. And at the end of the day, the same political class or the TV elite in Nigeria, they don't fight. They always come together. Who own the oil wells in the Niger?
Rent seekers have a way of...
you understand? So they are always together. But there is hope in this country. From what we saw in the last oil subsidy protest, Nigerians can really come together and bury their differences. We saw a situation in Kano and many other places where Christians would go to have their own service and Muslims are protecting them. And also when Muslims are offering their daily prayers, Christians come to shield around them. So I'm sure with the advent of social media, the information that we don't have access to in Nigeria before, now if things happen, the level of corruption in government, you can see it on BlackBerry, on Facebook, and things are really exposed, and things will never be the same again in this country. And I'm sure by 2015, all the people that are taking Nigerians for granted, they will be surprised, because people will start organizing now, not organizing. And I am sure by 2015, Nigeria is going to witness a remarkable progress. But we need to discuss the issue of fiscal and true federalism and see how the confederating unit of Nigeria can be independent of each other. And maybe they contribute whatever they generate to the center. And at the end of the day, the center can use the money in form of grant to give to state government or region to develop their own potential.
Okay, Ibrahim, the problem here is that what we have had consistently, right from under the military up onto the kind of constitution they have left us with, which is just a replica of their command structure, is the growth of individuals, the emergence of individuals to the detriment of institutions. We have ended up having weak institutions, very strong individuals, and all of that.
Yes. You see, I agree with the earlier speakers completely. Benga, no nation in the world, and I stand to be corrected, is as endowed as Nigeria. This is non-negotiable. It's a settled fact. Alone, the northern region, agricultural resources, this is the Federal Bureau of Statistics account, between 2009 and 2010, the agricultural activities in Nigeria was worth 80 trillion naira. That's about 20 times the budget of 2012. In just 1 year, we have no reason, going by this account, to even remember what poverty is about. But you see, the whole of this problem revolves around one thing, that is this oil. There has been much hue about the resources in the Niger Delta. These same resources in question is not a production. This is not anybody's, effort to say let's produce, for the Commonwealth. This is a natural endowment. But I concede respectfully to the South that they have the right to ask for something. And if somebody looks at what the federal government or Nigeria has done with the idea of this resource control, I don't see any reason why the Niger Delta agitation should come. We should begin to look at, other source of diversifying the economy so we can create, so that we can create essentially what is important, to keep, the Commonwealth together, so that we can have, a nation that is productive. The youth are central to this problem. Like Dr. Otieve earlier posited, if the wave of change that is blowing across the globe is anything to go by, Nigeria is long overdue to have one. I say the youth because the youth hold the fulcrum with which we can effect change. The concept of change has a vital existential significance because life itself is a process of constant change involving revolution as well as evolution. The concept of change, any individual who refuses to appraise the concept of change will remain impoverished, deplorably impoverished, perpetually ignorant, and in consequence psychologically unfulfilled. This is a fact. We have to appraise this change, and then the change now is resting on the shoulder of the youth. We earlier talked about the wave, for example, in what we have seen recently. Statistics have shown that 35 years and below form 70% of the Nigerian population. And these are people who have witnessed the establishment of the National Examination Council, otherwise known as NECO, the proliferation of the private university, introduction of the post-UME, as well as the perennial industrial action embarked upon by authorities of this institute over the years. Apart from a negligible part of this number who are so fortunate to be parented, by the Nigerian big men, these are young minds who, throughout their life, have not witnessed anything, called governance, called good governance in their lifetime. The idea of pipe-borne water is water from private boreholes dug in private homes. The idea of good schools is a private school from nursery to university level. And if their parents are unlucky to afford the tuition, they are then condemned to the public ones. They think our road must constantly be bad because they grew up to know so. And they have grown up, they have learned to brand someone a politician, unquote, if he's usually evasive or quick to tell lies. They have also grown up to know that the only feasible ways of becoming rich is by being in government. Being a government contractor, a friend or relative of someone in government, or some miracle performing pastor or imam. Even though they see opportunities in sport, and music, they, however, appreciate that the rise to wealth in this field aren't as fast and easy as it is in the earlier mentioned one. They observe the good things of life from a distance, the sprawling high-rise buildings in the country's choice areas, the beautiful cars owned by the fortunate, and the good, life lived by the capitalists. This generation, in summary, Benga, has not seen anything or witnessed anything called good governance in their lifetime. And interestingly, this is the generation that many of us, are part of. One will then appreciate why it is difficult to engage them on issues of good governance. They've not seen one, they know not one, they can't define it. The jean sagging guy with collar up and, thinks that somehow his friend will get the public office and the faculties of public office will somehow become theirs to control.
All right, we just have to leave it there. I'm sure you'll be hearing the word sign off.